long of the short of it is that Occupy as a whole thinks that there is something going pretty significantly wrong with their democracy. Somehow along the line, the influence of money has crossed the line from, like, kind of a benign, kind of icky necessity into something truly kind of monstrous and manipulative. I mean, we fundamentally feel that at this point in our democracy, the way our media works and the way our government works, the average person's needs and interests cannot be adequately represented by a government any longer. And so it's basically our mission to try to, like, organize the people and get the average person excited and involved in politics and involved in their own interests, and demand the institutions of our society to recognize the needs of the average person once again. And that's the long and the short of it. We're focused on an ALEC simply because they are a particularly egregious example. It's basically an organization that corporations use to produce model legislation to go out across basically every state, and they use those model bills to coerce state governments into basically serving their interests. There's not a single bill produced by ALEC that doesn't explicitly serve their interest, whatever the actual, like, language of the bill may be. It's part of a design to increase their profits at the expense of the average person. And so Occupy, like Minneapolis right now today, as part of a national action on February 29th, we are producing a piece of our own model legislation to try to reform Minnesota government and governments across the nation to basically limit the influence of corporate money and make a government more representative once again. That's the long and the short of it. Do we have
What's the opportunity for people to get involved?
Oh, of course. There are a number of good outlets to get people involved. I suppose the best way would be follow us on Facebook, show up to the ad event. Let's see, F29 Minneapolis, you should look that up. We have an email address. You can contact me. We'll send out a press release, and that'll be forthcoming very conveniently, so that should be nice. Anything else I'm forgetting, Soren? I think that's basically
the caucus event.
Of course.
How do people build enthusiasm for the February 29th event at the caucuses?
Right, of course. Well, part of our general push to get people, more involved in politics is that we're making a call for people to show up at the caucuses, the Democratic and Republican caucuses, any caucus you're interested in, and basically make your voice heard. Express a sincere concern and make a demand to the powers involved in that system, involved in that process, that we basically try to reform our government and remove the mechanisms of control that have become institutionalized, But basically push for campaign finance reform, more open democracy, that sort of thing. Yes, not a very strong sell, but it's basically there. And so you show up at the caucus, make your demands, and show up on February 29th at the steps of the Capitol at 4 p.m. to 7 to rally behind your bill. Show up at Occupy meetings now and in the near future to, help us work on it and have your say, because it is supposed to be a people's bill, and that's that.
Have you put together any kind of language that people might take to the caucuses?
Have we, Soren?
There's a lot of language from the National Occupy movement that should inform any Occupy supporters' participation. I think the two big pieces are the Principles of Solidarity from the New York City General Assembly and the Statement of Autonomy, the November 10th Statement of Autonomy. And those should guide you and also make you feel free to participate. If it's been your habit before Occupy started to associate with a political party, go to your political party's precinct caucuses on Tuesday night as an autonomous action with an affinity group of Democrats or Republicans or Greens that happen to live in your geographic party unit area, whether it's a precinct caucus for the GOP or for the DFL. Do participate, and that statement of autonomy, which acknowledges that before September 17th, people were working on similar issues, is your freedom to be involved as a member of Occupy. But as a movement, we're not endorsing any candidates, and there's freedom, at least within the DFL party, and here's where I need to disclose my previous affiliation as a DFLer. There's freedom within the DFL to participate without making a personal endorsement if you don't feel like you can support Barack Obama at this point, you can ballot uncommitted. I think balloting uncommitted is Occupy's big opportunity to be able to negotiate in the future for DFLers like myself who are involved in Occupy. Balloting uncommitted will be our opportunity to have leverage in negotiations with Barack Obama and his campaign as we move closer to the National Convention in Charlotte. Other people involved in other parties could speak to the opportunities in the GOP or to the Green Party. I can't speak to that. So using I statements. Always use I statements. You can't speak for Occupy unless you're referring to a resolution, a consensus statement from a General Assembly.
More than that, of course, people who are interested in a specific message and want to get involved in that specific, caucus drive should follow us on our Facebook page and on our Twitter, and there's already some information there, and more will be forthcoming shortly. So.
But unlike ALEC, which hands out templated legislation, you're not handing out templated caucus resolutions.
Oh, certainly not today. We're going to produce something as a group, not just a bunch of random occupiers who show up at the square, but we're going to try to produce a bill of the people to try to reform government, and that will be the model legislation. So,
if we could trust the partisan processes to faithfully represent, to select the best ideas and bring them up through a bottom-up hierarchy and filter out the rubbish.
Right,
we would trust that, but we know that it takes actions outside the partisan political framework, like the F-29 actions against ALEC and the things that suppress real democracy within the parties.
I think probably the best way of putting it is simply that we can't count on our democracy to represent us unless we put pressure on our democracy and we make it in the interest of politicians to actually, do the right thing. And so this is basically what this is about.
Yeah. The caucus process, the resolutions that you and your friends and neighbors in your precinct submit into the party process are the kinds of ideas that Occupy groups need to hear about. And if you like the face-to-face grassroots democracy you experience in your neighborhood with your neighbors, that's very similar to an Occupy General Assembly. So we do those fairly regularly. A General Assembly is almost like a caucus event that happens a couple times